Africans. I believe you've heard about a saying that if you want to kill a nation, miseducate them or misinform them. You don't need to carry your machine guns and your nuclear bomb and your torpedoes to go and finish that nation. No, just take their kids and misinform them and miseducate them. You will have bred a generation of miseducated individuals. And nothing is poisonous to a civilization like ignorance.
We must find his real name, Netanyahu. That one is a fake name for Israel. He's got his real European name because he's not a Jew. You heard me? Google it up. What is Netanyahu's real name? He's a converted, they were converted, these Turkish and in the book, The 13th Tribe by Ford, you'll actually find some of this information readily available.
It was common practice for Zionist immigrants at the time to adopt a Hebrew name. Nathan Mileikovsky began signing some of the articles he wrote. Netanyahu, the Hebrew version of his name, and his son adopted this and his family name. So his real name is Nathan Mileikovsky. I didn't know this. Okay.
Part of learning and growing.
So his real name is Nathan.
Yeah.
Not Benjamin.
No,
His real surname is Mileiskovsky, not Netanyahu.
Yeah. This is the same strategy that was used against black people. You see, in the Bible, or rather some ancient historical books, the Bible is an ancient text. And from it, we gather some things that are hidden from us today by the rest of the world. You know, we are told that Jesus himself was white. He wasn't white. He was African. No, he wasn't African. He was a Middle Eastern. You know, how the Middle Eastern of those times looked like is how he looked like, you know. He didn't have those blue eyes and all that. And also Israel was not a white nation, you know. Right now we think of Israel as a white nation because if you look at those Israelis of today, they are just like, they are white, you know. They are white Israelis. But now we've come to realize these people were lying to us all along. It's been a lie, and we've been convinced enough to even write them in our history books and pass them to our children. Remember the strategy I told you about? If you want to finish a generation or to finish a civilization, don't attack them by violence. Attack them mentally. Egypt, for another example, is a country that we know is of Arab, and we know that we have white people, so many white people in Egypt. Did you know that there's a time when Egypt was black? Yes, there's a time when this ancient, beautiful African country was black until some people came in Africa, invaded us, and wiped us out towards the south. You know, towards the south of Egypt, we have a special tribe, very unique tribe, called the Nubians. And these Nubians are very dark and very, very beautiful, you know. Their ladies are so beautiful. So the Nubians are people of the ancient Egypt. Now the white people came and wiped us out, and now they called Egypt their own place. They called Egypt, you know, a place of white. It was never that way. Even Egypt was not a place for the Arabs. No. The people we see in Egypt today are not the original inhabitants. The original inhabitants are the black people living in the south of that country. They've been displaced.
Why would they change their name though?
to adapt to the Hebrew Jewish narrative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And somebody posted a video of, I think it was in 17 or 1800s, of an old movie of people that lived in Jerusalem at the time, and most of them were black people.
You can Google again the Egyptian prime minister who says he's not going to accept Jerusalem as it is right now, because when the blacks left, when the Israelis left here, they were black. Now they came back white. So he's not going to recognize that.
So what do you want me to Google?
You can Google the Egyptian president who refused to accept the white Jews. So they left here as black. Now they're coming back as white. So when did the Jews become white? Because the Fertile Crescent sits on the Platonic stone of Africa, literally. It's impossible that white people can come out of Israel. But of course, to fit with the United Nations narrative of reclaiming the 1946, 47 treaties of giving Israelis back their land, then you find these white people, these converted Ashkenazis, who converted into Judaism, claiming to be Hebrews and Jews.
Why would they do that, though?
It's a religious benefit. It's a religious benefit. Again, it plays into the white supremacy narrative that they are the chosen people. And because they are chosen people, it resuscitates and sanitizes all white people. It's critical that the Jews must be white, theologically. Because once the Jews are white and they're at the door of the Bible, then anyone who reads this text must read it through the interpretation and the culture of those that are claimed to be Jews. So once the Jews are white, do you have a problem with the white Jesus? Why would you have a problem? It's a rewriting, it's a stealing of black history. Blatant. One of the biggest lies ever told on the face of the earth is that Jews are white. One of the biggest lies ever told historically, academically, ethnographically. Go back and purge through your history books. Find me a white man who was taken as a slave in Israel, from Israel to Egypt, to work to build the pyramids. White people, slaves in Egypt. And Moses came to redeem white people.
In 1958, President Nasser of Egypt said of the Jews, they left here black and came back white. What did he really mean, though? They say he meant the truth. Millions of modern Jews are either converts or light-skinned mixed-race people who don't fit the description of the earliest inhabitants of Israel.
It is two ways. He said that he is saying that when they left Egypt, they left here as blacks. But now he's being told to recognize them in Israel, and they're all white. So how did the transformation happen? That a black nation ended up as a white nation. But this is theological bigotry and mischief, where academic institutions of theology have allowed to whitewash the Bible and whitewash the theology to fit into the colonial narrative.
The ancient Middle East was first settled by Hamitic people, including the Cushites. The legendary ruler, Cushite king Nimrod, the Ethiopian, is immortalized in geographic and place names like Nimrod Fortress Castle in Israel.
The Hyksos. There was actually a period of the whitening. You can even research on that also, the whitening of Egypt. Where
Say that again?
the whitening of Egypt.
The white?
Whitening.
Whitening, oh,
The
okay.
whitening of Egypt, where actually the Hyksos were defeated. And the light in complexion Arabs started taking all the black Hyksos as slaves and pushed them out of royalty and now started having them white. Now when you walk around Egypt, it looks like it's a white country, when actually there was a process of the whitening of Egypt and the extermination of the black Hyksos, and hence the removal of the nose of all the statues to not show that the history that was here was of the flat-nosed people rather than the sharp-nosed people who are now claiming history as theirs.
The whitening of Egypt is a controversial idea that has been used to claim that ancient Egypt was a white civilization. However, mainstream Western scholars reject the idea. The idea that ancient Egypt was white or black is considered anachronistic by Western scholars. They argue that applying modern racial concepts to ancient Egypt is incorrect. Scholars also reject the idea that ancient Egypt was racially homogeneous. Instead, they believe that skin color varied between people from Lower Egypt, Upper Egypt, and Nubia. The controversy over the racial identity of Egypt has continued into the modern era.
And why, again, let's put these two arguments back to back. Number one, you have a religious argument, which gives you the white people as Jews. Number two, you have an academic argument, which is now trying to exterminate the black history and make it white. So see what's happening here. Academically, by claiming the history of Egypt as white history, you have been able to remove black people away from innovation, from academics, from history, as the originators and the most ancient civilization on the face of the earth. You claim that history, make Cleopatra white woman, make the pharaohs white people, make Moses taking the Israelites out of Egypt, make them white. That whole movie, rubbish, scandalous narratives. So by taking away our history and by sitting at the door of religion, you are able to brainwash people that they're inferior to you because their civilization, without them, there's no civilization. Without them, there's no salvation. So the white people become the gatekeepers of your economy, your history, and your religious expression. It can't be more blatant than that. A person who steals your car is much better smooth than a person who steals your identity. At a moment of your unconsciousness, I come and I change your name. When you wake up, I give you a wrong name. And you can never trace again who you are. That's cruel. That's cruel that you will walk past your mother's house and you will not recognize her. Because I took advantage when you were not conscious. That I make you hate your own brother. That's cruel. Because I'm withholding information from you to tell you that this is your blood brother. Now, stealing identity cannot be more gruesome than that.
So, guys, after clearly listening to Joshua Maponga speak this important revelation, I just can't imagine how much things we don't know as black people and how long have we been lied to, you know. Black people have been lied to in many instances, in many forms, in many ways, you know. We've been told that our own country, our own continent is a dark continent. We are practitioners of witchcraft. We are practitioners of, you know, all those evil things. And let me tell you one thing, in terms of this occulticism, you know, they might say that black people are practitioners of occulticism. However, here comes the difference, you know. Did you know that the people who taught Africans these things were the white people themselves? And if, let's say, they didn't teach us, they also practiced the same thing. So it's just a blame game they're forming, you know. It's just a thing to make themselves look superior, you know, appear more intelligible, appear more relatable to God, you know. I believe in the ways of Christianity. The ways of Christianity are very right. I myself, I confess to Jesus Christ being my Savior. Yes, I confess. The things I don't like is the hypocrisy. Somebody bringing you the Bible and stealing your land, you know. Of course, it's better to have the Bible than the land. But why should they lie? Just say, I want your land. Kindly give me it. So after listening to this, you come to understand that Africans have been deceived. It's not about Egypt. It's not about Israel only. We've been living in a bubble of lies. The West has been lying to us in many ways as Africans. We've been brainwashed, you know. We have the colonial mindset, you know. Egypt and Israel, these are countries, these are regions that have been, you know, have been mentioned in the Bible, have been mentioned in Quran, they have been mentioned in the books of Judaism, you know. So there are many people who are followers of these three religions, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, you know. So having to figure out how to convince them that these regions were in one way or the other belonging to a certain group of people who is white, it creates and it reinforces the idea of white supremacy. You see how concrete and how subtle their strategies are. It's subtle and very deceitful, you know. It takes one to have knowledge, it takes one to have understanding and to know between the rights and the wrongs and to know the boundaries of things, you know. If you know that in Africa,